Getting into working out consistently was the hardest thing that I had ever done in my teenage life. Before that, I had basically no instances of discipline or habit building that related to my personal goals. So I want you to imagine my feeling when I learned the hard way that dieting was actually not as difficult as working out, but it was actually twice as difficult. And if you've never dieted or maybe never worked out before, you might wonder why that is. But it's common knowledge that dieting is way more difficult than working out when you're trying to get lean and build an aesthetic physique. And the reason is that dieting isn't a one-time task that you do daily, right? It's not just a set time from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. But it's a way of life. You are dieting every single meal that you eat, and so you have to constantly stay on top of that. In addition, you have to know exactly what to eat, and dieting and health is a very complicated field. Today I'm going to teach you all about the diet to build an aesthetic physique. I'm going to go over macros. I'm going to go over dieting if you're starting overweight or starting underweight, and then I'll give you some tips for some integration to make it easier to follow along the way. First up, buy yourself a wife beater to wear. And I'm totally serious about this. Buy yourself, kind of like the one that I'm wearing, a wife beater. You can wear this in the gym or outside the gym. And the reason it's so useful is because you can constantly see your physique. And so it's sort of a persistent marker of progress, right? You don't have to be naked in front of the mirror to see your physique. And so, if you follow my advice and you buy yourself one after watching this video, maybe, or if you already own one, then you'll be able to see the results in real time as you follow the advice I'm going to give you in this video. First up, let's go over macros. So for protein, you're going to want to intake about 1.2 to 1.7 grams per kilogram of body weight. And that's about 0.75 to zero point 0.8 grams per pound. This supports muscle growth and repair. Protein is probably the most important macro in building an aesthetic body. Even more, like closer to 1 gram per pound of body weight is better, and that's what I follow, in case you're curious. You need to prioritize lean meats, fish, eggs, dairy, legumes, and protein from plants. If you're not cutting out carbs, then they should make up about 50% of your total calories. And the reason I say that is that a lot of people praise what's called the keto diet for its efficiency, for its health. It's basically you cut out all carbohydrates from your meals, so you're intaking about 50 grams daily at most, which is really, really low. And there's a lot of benefits to this. Basically, it turns your body from burning something called glucose to burning something called ketones, and apparently that's really good for you. It's a bit hard to follow at first, but the benefits are apparently very much worth it. But again, it depends on your goal. So like bulking, carbs are really good, and you're probably going to want to eat carbs if you're bulking, just because that's the phase of your life that you're in, and it's good for you. Whereas if like you're not bulking, maybe you can consider doing keto. But yeah, they should make up about 50% of your total calories. Carbs will fuel your workouts, give you more glycogen for the glycogen stores in your muscles, and they're great. You should prioritize whole grains, fruits, and vegetables for sustained energy. So there's also a difference between complex carbs and refined carbs. So refined carbs are sort of processed stuff like cookies and a lot of white bread, right? And what happens when they're refined is the sugar molecules are smaller, and so they're easier for the body to break down. When the body breaks them down easily, it leads to a large surge of blood sugar, right? A large surge of energy from the carbs. But that's just a spike, and then it goes down and it crashes afterwards. Complex carbs, from the stuff that I told you about earlier, whole grains, fruits, vegetables, stuff like sweet potatoes and brown rice, they have longer sugar molecules, and so it takes longer for the body to break down. When the body takes longer to break it down, it leads to more sustained energy, and so it's kind of a level source of energy, a level timeline of energy that you get throughout the day. So if you're going to do carbs, do complex carbs. And I would actually make a hard rule for yourself to cut out all refined carbs, personally, but I'm an extreme guy. And then fats should make up about 20% of your calories. You should focus on nuts, seeds, avocados, and oily fish for hormone production and joint health. So fats are very important for nutrient absorption and transport throughout the body, as well as hormone regulation. A lot of people, when they're not experienced on diet, they'll hear like commercials or whatever talk about fat, right? And fat is the descriptor we have for overweight people. And so people associate fat, the actual nutrient, with being unhealthy. But that isn't true at all. Fat is, it's a part of our diet. It's what we're supposed to eat, right? It was a natural nutrient that God put on this earth for us to consume a certain amount of. Consuming unhealthy versions of it or consuming too much is bad, obviously. But we are supposed to consume some. Olive oil is also a great source of fat. The basic rule is get all these things from nutrient-dense foods, which are kind of like the compound lift of diet, right? So in exercise, compound lifts are lifts that require more of your body to do a single rep, right? So think about barbell squats, right? Just with a barbell and some weight, or maybe dumbbell press, right? These things require more stabilizer muscles per rep. So something like the bench press requires not only your chest, but also your triceps and a little bit of your shoulders, right? And so you get more exercise per rep. I've spoken about this before. These macros should be split across 3 to 6 meals per day. Don't do less. Don't do something like skip breakfast. I know a lot of guys who tell me they skip breakfast, but it's not good for you. You need to be eating several meals throughout the day instead of trying to fit all these into like 1 or 2 big meals, because it's not going to work. And the more kind of meals that you include, the better, right? So maybe do breakfast, do a snack, do lunch, do a snack, do dinner. And if you're doing something like bulking, then it's going to make it easier to get those calories in. So that's another benefit. So just as an example, to wrap up this macros section, if we're talking about a 175-pound individual, that'll be 170 grams of protein, 350 grams of carbs, and 80 grams of fat. By the way, I explained all of this in my full program, which contains literally everything that I know about weightlifting and about building an aesthetic body and about dieting, which we're talking about today. You can find that by just clicking the link in the description and visiting the page. And I think you'll benefit a lot from checking that out. And if you're interested in investing in yourself, then you should definitely read what it has to offer. So let's talk about dieting. First of all, if you're overweight, then the goal is to lose fat while maintaining or even gaining muscle. This is called body recomposition. And so this is why it's so important to eat protein if you're trying to lose weight. I'm going to link what's called a TDEE, Total Daily Energy Expenditure Calculator, in the description. I want you to pause the video, go over to that tab, put in some basic information, and then come back here with, you're going to calculate your maintenance calories, which is the number of calories that you need to eat daily if you don't want to lose weight or gain weight. That's your maintenance. You're going to take that and subtract around 10 to 20%, say 15% of your maintenance. Right? We're going to go on a moderate bulk. And this is the amount that you should, moderate cut, This is the amount that you should eat daily if you want to prioritize fat loss. At the same time, you want to ensure that you are resistance training. So make sure you're weightlifting, obviously, or this is not going to be that effective. So make sure you have a routine. Go 6 days a week if you can. And then another tip is to, as I said before, limit refined carbs and sugars. Only eat complex carbs. Probably make it a hard rule for yourself. And I've heard that really helps with fat loss. So definitely try that out. Now, if you're underweight, we need to eat all the macros that we talked about earlier, right? So go back in the video and sort of do the same calculation that I did with getting your protein, your carbs, and your fats. So get specific numbers. And then what you're going to do is you're going to add a small surplus to your maintenance calories that we calculated earlier. So if you're underweight and you haven't done the maintenance calories calculation, do that. Yeah, so add about 10% to your maintenance calories. That's your new number that you're going to hit every single day to bulk. You're going to hit it using nutrient-dense foods. So you're not going to eat junk food. You're not going to try and go in a dirty bulk. You're going to eat whole foods, natural foods, foods that our ancestors used to eat, right? Foods that are healthy for us, that are good for us, that promote growth. And avoid empty calories. Avoid foods that are like, they say they have a certain number of calories on them, and I'm sure they do, but they don't really provide any nutrients. They don't provide any protein. They don't provide any carbs. They don't provide any fats. They're not good foods. Avoid those foods. Avoid junk food. Just cut them out. You're not going to gain the right weight if you try that. And then you can increase the surplus gradually if you find that the 10% doesn't really work. I don't want to have you eating too much too fast, but a lot of times some people are hard gainers and they need to eat more food, especially if you're starting out underweight and you eat a normal amount but you're underweight. A lot of those guys are hard gainers, so you're probably going to have to gradually increase the calories up from 10% to 20% extra to maybe 30% extra. Just experiment and find out where the number lies where you actually start gaining weight. Basically what we want here is a lean bulk so you stay shredded while you gain weight. So now let's talk about how a busy person can integrate diet into their life, because I assume that you're a normal person, that you have a job and responsibilities. And it can be very hard for people to find the time to worry about all of this if they've got such things, right? As I said before, it's so difficult because it's omnipresent throughout your day. That's why diet is so hard. But first step is to write down a good meal plan. So it doesn't have to be a lot of recipes, but you're going to want to write down a lot of meals that you'll be eating, right? I basically live the same 3 days over and over because I have a 3-day meal plan. I just go day 1, day 2, day 3. Day 1, day 2, day 3. Another good tip is to weekly meal prep a couple of hours on one day of the week, maybe Sunday. For this, you'll just go to the grocery store on Sunday, come back home, prepare a bunch of ingredients that you can then mix and match throughout the rest of the week in meals. So you would do something like cook assorted proteins and carbs, maybe that's rice or pasta, and then chicken, ground beef, fish, excuse me, and then store those in little containers, put them in the fridge, and whenever you need a meal, you can just take out one protein, one carb, maybe something else like a vegetable, mix them together, and that's a meal, right? And you can mix them differently too, so you can make a bunch of different meals. You want to keep healthy snacks visible in the kitchen. Imagine your kitchen is stuffed with like candy and cookies and stuff like that, and chips. Do you think that you're going to successfully diet? Obviously not. So make sure that healthy snacks are visible and available to make it easy. If you want to start making really good meals that are a bit more complex than just mixing things together, you can go to ChatGPT and ask it for a bunch of bulk recipes, and you can include the certain protein, carb, and fat goals that you want to hit with each meal, and then ask it to print out a meal plan. This is the route that I go. It makes some really good meals that are delicious, so I highly recommend it. You should buy a water bottle to keep on yourself all day so you're never dehydrated and you drink water a lot. If you're trying to lose weight, this will help reduce cravings, and I mean, it supports like good metabolism, so it's definitely useful. You want to set reminders at meal times. Otherwise, you might just forget and put it off, and that can mess up your routine. And then lastly, just track your progress. It's like with anything in life, if you don't track it, you're probably not going to achieve it. So track your calories with each meal. You can just write that down in a notes app, or you can download a really good app, really popular app called MyFitnessPal, where you can log all of your calories. You can log any food that you can think of, and then it will show you total calories, how many you have left, and how much of your macros you've hit for that day. So you can keep the data and understand where you go wrong. So that's all for this video. If you got any value from this, there's something which is a win-win for both of us that you can do, which is to just scroll down and click the subscribe button. I win because obviously I get a new subscriber, and you win because anytime I have a new insight, or I learn something new, or I try something else new, then I can make a video of it and directly give you value so we can both grow on our lifter journey. So thank you so much, and have an amazing day.